Okay, so Alan Redburn has been involved politically for 21 years. He is the current state chair of We the People of Missouri. He is the owner of ARC Home Inspections. He works part-time for Apex Restoration Service in St. Louis. He is a full-time husband to his wife, Cindy. I love how you worded that. I just love how you worded that. Of 45 years. Father to 6 adult children and papa to 14 wonderful grandchildren. He has spent over 40 years in retail with 25 years in management, working for some great companies such as Kroger, Sam's Club, and his favorite, Hobby Lobby. He last worked for Cohen Architectural Woodworking, doing HR and leadership development in a Christian-based organization. A high percentage of the employees were former felons who had done prison time, helping then realize their worth in God's eyes and becoming good husbands, fathers, and respectable men and women in their community. I just love that. That is when I just love that. Cindy and Alan were regional directors for 7 years and went on to become executive directors for the FHE, which is Families for Home Education, for 2 years. In 1992, Cindy and Alan became members of then Taxpayer Party and now the Constitution Party, after realizing that neither the Republicans or the Democrats were truly defending or upholding the Constitution and the liberties it granted to the people of this great land and state. In 1998, he ran for Missouri State Senate in the 20th District against Danny Staples. Alan received 12% of the votes cast, with the majority coming from the Democrats. Alan has made over 20 mission trips to Honduras, evangelizing, doing building and water projects, in addition to starting VOTEC schools for the young people of Honduras with cooking, sewing, and welding classes. That work continues today. Give a warm Cape County welcome to Alan Redburn.
Thank you, Jan. I don't know, do I need this thing or do I have to do this thing? Or
Yes, well, you have to do it, kind
I
of,
have to
because
do it?
they
Okay.
can't hear and then we're recording.
Just like my wife, she tells me what I have to do and
No.
or can or can't do. That's okay. Jan kind of gave you the professional side of me. I'm going to tell you now who I really am and what I really do. I love people. I love working with people. Oh, got it. Bye at a time. I love helping them achieve more than they could ever imagine or dream possible in their life. Teaching and modeling for adults and youth how to become servant leaders in the workplace, their family, and the communities they live in. To date, only one person has stepped up and died for me. Because of what Jesus Christ has done, I work daily to understand and fulfill the plan and purpose He has for my life while here on earth. Outside of all that, I grew up on a cattle farm in central Missouri, learned the meaning of hard work at a very young age. We never had much, never went on vacation, but I wouldn't trade that part of my life for anything. I grew up with both sets of grandparents and many aunts and uncles who had a positive impact on my life to this day. I'm the oldest of 5. I have 2 brothers and 2 sisters. I have a brother 14 months younger than I. And we worked for a farmer down the road from time to time when we weren't working on Dad's place. The second summer we worked for him, he came and asked my dad if he could take us to the Missouri State Fair in Sedalia. My dad said yes. Wow. What a weekend for 2 boys, aged 12 and 13 years old. An experience we'll never forget. Now, something like that wouldn't mean much to a lot of young guys today, but for us it was everything. On a personal side, I've done jail ministry, and yes, I still pick up hitchhikers, though not as often today as in years gone by. While many have given up on humanity, I believe this is our finest hour. Will there be setbacks and even defeat? Absolutely. We've been called for such a time as this to fulfill the call God has placed on each of our lives. Never, ever give up. And so Jan talked about my wife of 45 years, and we are so privileged tonight to have another special guest. Our son Brent and his wife Kirsten live here in Jackson and have for many years, in addition to our granddaughter Abby Jo. So Kirsten is here tonight, and I want to plug for Kirsten. She has a booth called Abundant Life Boutique at Heartland Antiques. She currently is upstairs, but with the new addition, once she gets that done, once I get that done, she'll be moving downstairs. So Kirsten I tell my son all the time, son, you married up. I don't know how you did it. But Kirsten is a sweetheart and one of our beloved. And her granddaughter, Abby Jo, would have been here tonight, but she is at sergeant training somewhere in the state of Kansas? Nebraska. So she graduated from Fort Leonard Wood a couple years ago and is in the military police. And she does the color guard for the chapter, the place here in Cape, the National Guard. Okay. All right. So anyway, if you have any inkling for clothing, for jewelry, for I don't know what all she sells, but I just sit outside and let my wife go in. So, I am a positive guy. I look to the bright side of everything. I look at the honesty of where we are as a nation, as a people, but I try to give people a measure of hope. And so if I was to title this, it would be Hope Out of Chaos. And you say, well, those are two very different words. And hope is an optimistic state of mind based on an expectation of positive outcomes with respect to events and circumstances in one's life or the world at large. Chaos is just a state of total confusion with no order. So we have a little bit of both going on in our world today. And you think, there's never been a time like this, but there has. In days gone by, it was just as bad, if not worse. But the sad thing about it is we're watching it slip away. People are standing on the sidelines and being the armchair quarterbacks that we are, and we've got a lot to say about it, but we're not really doing anything. And we, the people of Cape County, with Jan and all the other folks here, are trying to help you guys understand how important it is to get involved because they're going to take our liberties. And, I said I'm an optimist, but I'm a realist too. They're going to take them. So be ready. So, a couple of things, national debt. You want to talk about something depressing. Currently over $33 trillion per person. That comes to a total of $98,954 per person in this country. Guys, we will never be able to pay it back. We will default. There is no way. You may have all the money in the world, but it's not enough to pay it. And we know it's not a proper role of government. We know that's not the way our founding fathers set up this country, but it's where we live today. I'll talk about some other things that you're going to hear a lot of talk about in the upcoming elections. And Jacob Turner, I know I've met him on a couple of occasions. I've not personally vetted him as a candidate. I pray you have, because we need great men and women to step into the role, and they're going to put him on the grill, because if you're not one of the chosen ones, you're going to go through what he and his wife are going through now. But our nation is worth the fight. So get behind Jacob if he's everything he says he is, and find out if he's not, but I think he is. So some things you're going to hear about in the upcoming election through to the November of next year. You're going to hear a lot about the woke culture. Woke culture is not something new. It just didn't come up here in the last 10 years. It's been around for decades. But it's going to continue to be a topic of conversation. It's a diversion, in a sense, so to speak. You've got the LGBTQ, I just call them alphabet people for lack of a better word. And don't misunderstand me, I don't oppose these folks, but it's part of our culture that is not good. It's not good for our children, it's not good for our young people. You're going to hear Echo Alexander here in a month or so, and she's going to talk about the libraries and what's going on in our local libraries and how these folks are, they're really infiltrating. They have a huge following of money, and you're just going to hear a lot about it. Education in America, Kim gave a report on the school board meeting. We have a failing system at best in our country today. We continue to fall in our worldwide rankings as a nation in educating our children. I I think it's one of the things that's at the very heart of our culture war today is the education. And it's not an education, it's really an indoctrination. And until we realize what that is and we get folks on our school boards and running that want to be involved in that, we're not going to change, because DESE has way more money than you and I and anybody else, and they have an agenda, and it doesn't include us as the people. One of their agenda items is in the next 10 years to eliminate all school boards. They don't want your voice. They don't want to hear what you have to say. They want to control everything that involves your children. So get involved before it's too late. The medical system, we could talk about that all night long, but we all know it's not about the people, it's about making money and a larger system of control, big pharma, and so on. So a couple things, I got a couple of books here. I see Jan has some on the table over here. The Missouri Constitution. I'm confident in this group you have all read this book, or at least have a general idea of what it's about. I'm not going to ask for a show of hands, okay?
That's good.
All right. But I do have a book that I want to highly recommend, The Proper Role of Government by Ezra Taft Benson. It's a condensed version. It is very good. We happen to have 4 extra copies we brought along. And just to cover the cost, if you want one, they're $3. But he goes into a lot of the things, and maybe my wife will touch on it more here in a little bit. But when you think about the proper role of government, there are so many things that our government is involved in. Things that, quite honestly, we benefit from, but it's still not the proper role of government. And so we can't afford the things they're doing now. And for what's to come, I don't know how we're going to be able to pay for it. So one thing I want to talk about tonight is Senate Bill 190. Is anyone familiar with that? Senate Bill 190 was passed by our legislature, signed by the governor, and sent down to every county, all 100 and however many counties we have in Missouri, after the legislative session. And Senate Bill 190 is basically a special interest bill. Let me just read here. It's an ill-conceived and poorly written special interest legislation with vague language creating uncertainty on the enforcement procedures. Special interest bills granting tax relief to one group of citizens, business, or corporations always increase the tax burden on the rest of the citizens, and are unconstitutional in nature. The preamble of the Constitution, Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution, and Article 1, Section 2 of the Missouri Constitution are violated by Senate Bill 190 as it goes beyond the limits of promoting the general welfare and providing a benefit to a specific group. Senate Bill 190 provides property tax relief to senior citizens. Now, I fit in that category, but as we go through this and you hear it, I think you're going to understand how it's not good legislation. It's not what we need here in Missouri. It also creates a secondary special interest subgroup of senior citizens, only those citizens who receive Social Security benefits, eliminating many seniors who receive private pension benefits. They won't qualify. So if you're a retired teacher, you don't get Social Security. You get from a different draw, but you're not part of this bill. If you are a railroad worker and you have a private pension fund and don't draw Social Security, you're not part of this bill either. So already there are people that are discriminated against, for lack of a better word, in this bill that won't be able to take advantage of it. Now, here's where you guys come in. Our county commissioners have been placed in an untenable position as the General Assembly and government have created a lose-lose situation. Loss of revenue and disfavor with constituents, no matter which course they take. Senate Bill 190 needs to be legally challenged and revoked, and our representatives who voted for this bill, pandering to the special interest groups, need to hear from their constituents and the county officials who will be impacted negatively by this legislation. And as Jan said, only one senator opposed this, Senator Mike Moon, the only man with any guts in Jefferson City, or one of the few. Your representative, what is his name, Brian? Larry Hovis. He voted for it.
And John Voss.
And John Voss.
And Rick Francis probably, I'm not sure, but I'm...
Ours did as well. Mr. Copeland, Ron Copeland. They can tell you they don't know what was in it, but that's their job. That's their job to know what is in the bill. Now, what does it mean for us as citizens, especially senior citizens, if you're over 62, is it? You're gonna get tax credit, or you're not gonna pay property taxes anymore on your property. So if you got a couple hundred acres out here in Cape County or Bollinger County, and you're over 62, the county commission now has to decide if this is gonna be something they're gonna do, because what's it gonna do? It's gonna impact the revenue greatly. So we all know, yes,
One correction, it's just going to reduce their tax rate to what it was when they turned 62.
that's right.
They still will have to pay partial, but they will get a reduction, whereas everybody else will still be paying whatever it is. But they will have to credit back to 1962. So there will be a bonus,
We're back to 62 years of
Yeah.
age.
62 years of age.
Okay. Okay. So it's not a good bill. It picks out one individual group, and don't misunderstand me. I'm not opposed to senior citizens. I'm a senior citizen myself. But why should they get a relief? You know, I don't know what the percentage is, but the majority of them can afford their personal property taxes way more than most other folks. It's just a bad bill. Now, your county commission is gonna have to decide.
Well, that's what I was gonna say, so
Yes.
they have a decision, they don't have to just do it?
Yes, and this is where you guys come in. You've got to learn what this is about, and you got to go to your county commissioner meeting. And my wife will talk about it here in a minute. She went to the county commissioning meeting in Crawford County today. Yes, ma'am.
If you're speaking up there and making conversation, we can't hear back here.
I'm so sorry. I'll tell her to shut up next
Side-
time. Okay, it's okay. No problem. Yes, sir.
Have they taken into consideration the growing number of older people as the years go by? I mean, we're living longer and longer and longer.
Yeah.
And this category of 62 and up people is getting huge. I mean, it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. It's not just a tax increment decrease right now.
Right.
What's it gonna be 10 years from now?
Yeah, it's gonna be huge. And, you know, I don't know, special interest groups were behind it. They were the ones that pushed for it. And the legislature, whether it was a, midnight session or whatever, just passed it through, hands down. And, now they're gonna have to backpedal and decide what they're gonna do. But your county commissioners have to make a decision. The ones in Crawford County where we are, go ahead. You can speak to that.
Well, the decision will. Is that on?
Just hold it down for a few seconds and stand up, please.
That one?
The top. Do you wanna join him up there, up front? It's on.
Oh, okay, it's on. What the decision is, I just am amazed at what a bunch of cowards we have in Jefferson City. They just passed this legislation, but they don't, it's not their enforcement, it's not for them to enforce, it's for each county to enforce. And so they have to pass an ordinance in the county. I believe they have to the end of the year to make a decision whether they will pass an ordinance or not. However, if they do not pass an ordinance, then the citizens will be able to basically do an initiative petition, and if they can get it on the ballot, then it'll become a ballot issue. So it's still, even if they don't pass the ordinance, it will still be then up to, and there is a large lobbying group in Jefferson City that has local chapters, and they will be pushing hard to get this passed. So, as I said, it's a lose-lose situation wherever you go, and the counties some of them have already passed ordinances, but it's a huge enforcement problem. I know in Crawford County alone, they are talking about the additional people that will have to be hired, to do the administration of finding out who owns, and there's, but I understand there's a lot of legislators who are now pushing Governor Parsons to have a special session because it is so poorly written without clear instructions on how they're supposed to implement all of this. It's just a bad bill all the way around. And, but citizens should be basically talking to your county commission, and basically, number one, my first thing that I told them, this is unconstitutional. Right there alone, you should just not even pass anything because it's unconstitutional. That should be the question that every representative answers first and foremost, is this constitutional? And if it's not, then we don't go there. So that's a little bit more about it.
Thank you, ma'am. So, you got your marching orders
Sponsored
there.
that bill.
Gary Mark, Tony Luker.
Tony Lavasco, is that his?
Oh, I thought it
Oh,
was.
Tony Lukemeyer, you're right.
So Barry Hovis, I was in text conversation with him today, and admittedly that it was presented to him as something else, and so I guess that he didn't read the bill. I did not ask him that. I said, what was I going with this? Anyway, oh, he said, well, somebody just needs to file a lawsuit. We'll let the courts sort it out. And I said, no. It is failure of the legislature from not doing what we have sent them to do. And until we start holding their feet to the fire and say, you are an inept legislator, it's time for you to go. We have to keep doing that.
Amen. And the same with Jared. If he gets elected, it's your responsibility to hold his, Jacob Turner. It's your responsibility to hold his feet to the fire to do what the Constitution says and understand the proper role of government. Now, he understands a lot of things, but I'm not sure he understands it all. I can say I've only met him on a couple of occasions, and he may. And I think he wants to do well, but how many have we seen make the journey to Jefferson City with well intentions and don't turn out so well? So it's your responsibility to hold his feet to the fire. Okay, so you got your marching orders for the county commission. Guys, get to those meetings, find out when they are. When are they, Jan?
Every Monday and Thursday from 9 o'clock till probably 9:07 or 9:08. That's about it.
Well, my wife is a regular at ours in Crawford County, and it's like if she is not there, where's Cindy?
Right.
You know, and she takes them to task and she holds them accountable. So maybe you don't know how to do that. Maybe you don't know. Maybe you're not a person that feels like you can speak, but if you're a tax-paying citizen of this county and this state, you have an obligation. So learn how. I'm going to give you a few tips here on how to win and influence your elected officials. Being the best you and gaining credibility. Cindy has gained credibility with our county commissioners. Here's some of the do's. Number one, be present. Attend meetings regularly. Don't just show up when you got something that's, something to gripe about. Go and just be present. Hear them out, listen, understand, know how the process works. Be professional, not only in your appearance, in your speech, and your action as well. Be attentive, listen carefully, take notes, determine character, integrity, and approachability. Be appreciative. There's not, you hear it a lot from our legislators, our senators, our local officials. Everybody's got a gripe that nobody appreciates me. Well, appreciate them. Thank them for what they do. They have a hard job. Whether they deserve to be in that position or not, they have a hard job. So thank them for what they do. Be informed. This is the big one. Do your research. Know what your challenge is. Know what you're talking about when you talk about an issue. It's not that hard. There's so much out there on the internet today. You can go to the Missouri.gov website and find every bill that was passed in last legislative session and how it went. And so be informed. Be respectful. Always ask questions rather than demand answers in action. Properly framed questions will normally be responded to likewise and produce the information you're seeking. Be as wise as serpents and gentle as doves. Be patient. Timing is crucial. Don't rush issues. Waiting for the right moment will pay more dividends. So again, be prepared. Prepare them on the front side, for what's coming. Here's some of the don'ts, and these are good challenges for all of us. Don't be driven by emotion. We're all emotional individuals. We all suffer different levels of emotion, whether it's anger, frustration. Just don't let your emotions take over. Base it on facts. A calm, clear, and concise statement of fact is a credible approach. Don't be condescending. Even if you know you hold the right position on an issue, never belittle another's opinion. State your position and allow it to stand on its own merit. And lastly, don't be an accuser. Always approach an issue with the benefit of the doubt and ask leading questions to reveal the facts or the truth. And these are some things you guys may have to work on. You may have to practice on one another, but it carries a lot of weight when you do it and do it the right way. There's something about being a mediator of a sense that, this side and this side and never the two shall meet. But really you can bridge that gap by the way you approach our legislators, our councilmen, our library boards, our school board members. And look what Kim has done. She's got one of the ladies on the school board calling her. So why is that? It's because of the respect that she gives them. Doesn't matter if they're doing it or not. Be respectful. So I really don't have a lot more. I mean, I do, but I don't want to take a lot of time. My wife is going to come up here and talk about a few things. But guys, don't ever think that who you are and what you do on a daily basis doesn't count, because it does. More ways than you can ever imagine. I'm going to read a scripture here, Esther 4:14, and this was Queen Esther, and you can read the story. Esther's a short book of the Bible, but basically it says, this was Mordecai was telling Esther, says, "For if you keep silent at this time, relief and deliverance will rise for the Jews from another place, but you and your father's house will perish. And who knows whether you have not come to the kingdom for such a time as this." Guys, you are here for a reason, for a purpose. And it's for more than just taking up a seat, taking up a pew, whatever you want to call it. You were called for great and mighty things. So can we afford to keep silent? No, I say not. Will things get better? History says it won't. Each one of you is like a piece of a puzzle. You ever work a puzzle through the holidays or in the wintertime when it's cold and you don't want to go outside, and you get down to the last couple of pieces and they're missing? Oh, what a frustration. But you guys are a piece of the puzzle of this action of accountability that we need in our local government and in our state legislature. So if not us, who? If not now, when? So guys, please get involved and get to work. Thank you.
Alrighty, anybody have any questions for Alan? You're not off the hot seat yet, Shirley, come on. That easy?
Yeah.
Go ahead, there we go.
The county commission we have is like the golden goose, and they like to just sit on money. They still have the $9 million COVID money in their pocket, and they won't release money to a lot of the organizations that are begging for money. CTA was one that was begging for money, and they won't give them any more. I mean, they will never pass that thing that allows older people to not pay as much taxes.
That's how I feel.
Don't count on it. Let me tell you, Cindy has a personal friend at the county commissioners meeting, and it's the reporter that puts articles in the paper every week about what happens at the commissioners meeting. So that's why it's so important that you bring this stuff up. If they haven't spent ARPA money, is that what you're talking about? If they're not spending the ARPA money and using it for good in this county, it's up to you guys to hold them accountable. Call them out. Say, is it true? I've heard that, there's however many $1 million that's not being used for things that it could be used for in this county, whether it's road improvement or schools or, the fire district or new equipment. Is it true that you guys are sitting on that and not doing what needs to be done with it? It's all in how you present it, guys, and you need to call them out. You need to hold them accountable. They will squirm when you do that on a consistent basis, I promise you. And if you have a decent, even if you don't have a decent news reporter that comes to those meetings, print off what you say. Cindy, every week, her comments that she has, the reporter just looks at her and expects a copy of her comments. And so she gets quoted word for word. That way you don't get misquoted. So take a copy of whatever you're going to say and offer it to the reporter. Say, would you like to, just so you don't misquote me, and don't say it that way, but would you like a copy of my, of my comments?
Good idea.
Yeah. Because you have to challenge these people. They will do whatever they want until the people that put them in office challenge them. We voted in a new county commissioner last year, 2022. In Crawford County, and it's now 2 against 1. He's the good guy, and the other 2 guys are. So we're working on candidates to replace them. People that want what's good for the county, and that's what you need here in Cape County as well. So.
Cindy had some successes at her county commission meeting over the last year or so. So I've asked her just to speak a brief minute about her success there. Any other questions, concerns, thoughts?
I'll ask Cindy something after she.
Thank you. Well, I'm glad to be here tonight. Let me tell you, I never had so much fun in my life until I started attending county commission meetings. I mean, they really are fun. They really are.
Close to you.
Sorry about that.
There you go.
I started attending the meetings in May of 2022. I was, at that time, I was teaching a co-op class for a homeschool co-op on government. And I wanted to add to we were covering the federal government and a little bit on state, but I thought, I really need something on local government. So I called the county commissioner, the presiding commissioner, and I asked him, where could I find a copy of the ordinances that basically govern Crawford County? Well, he didn't really know. Maybe the county clerk would have them. And so the county clerk, I called over to there, the county clerk wasn't there, talked to somebody in the office, and they didn't really know either. I think maybe every department has their ordinances. Okay, well, I'm getting nowhere with this, okay? So I kept trying to call. I called the health department to find out what they had. Really couldn't find anything out. So I basically thought, well, I'm not gonna teach the kids about this. But then when I finally finished that, I decided, and this is something that I felt like it was something I should have done a long time ago. But like everybody here, I was busy. I didn't feel like I had the time. But then when I moved to Crawford County, is that better? She's so protected like that. When I moved to Crawford County, after that, I decided it was really time to basically do what I'm supposed to do and what everybody is supposed to do as a citizen, is be there to hold your elected representatives accountable. So I attended the first couple meetings and I realized that our county clerk was not posting the agenda 24 hours prior to the meeting, nor were there minutes being read at the next meeting. And finally, one day, came in with 3 meeting minutes to be approved at one time. So I knew that this was not proper, and I knew that the agenda wasn't being posted 24 hours prior to the meeting. So I asked him about that. We have to understand, our county clerk is extremely arrogant, extremely rude. I'm not kidding, you've never seen anything like this. And before it was over and done with, he was shoving the legal pad at me, saying, then you take the minutes. And I shoved it back at him and I said, no, it's your job, you take the minutes and you post the agenda. And so this was how my first introduction there. So obviously I wasn't listening to anything that Alan had to say about any of this. And actually, at one point, no, I really did calm myself down because I found out that by asking questions, you can basically, they will sometimes expose themselves rather than trying to accuse somebody of something. The county clerk, who was rude and arrogant to everybody, this was his reputation. We are working to replace him, okay? He's a brilliant man, but he is rude and arrogant, and he basically was a little tyrant in our county. Well, I guess it's been maybe 4 months. Something came up about the minutes not being posted again and not being reported. And I approached the county commissioners with the fact that I had basically went to attend a meeting on a Tuesday, got there and found out they weren't meeting because it was election day, and I didn't know that. It wasn't posted anywhere. And so I brought it to their attention, and the way I did it, I said, I have a concern and I'm looking for a solution. I'm not here to complain, but I am looking for a solution to this problem. And then I basically told my story, how this was not posted anywhere. It wasn't. It got to the point where they were putting it on the internet instead of having to travel to the courthouse to see it, the agenda. So when I brought this up, I wasn't even finished speaking about it. And the county clerk, once again, shoved this legal pad at me and interrupted me in the middle of what I was talking. And I basically just said, I'm sorry, Mr. Martin, I'm speaking right now. You'll have to wait till I'm finished. And he got up and he shoved the pad to the presiding commissioner and walked out. He's not been back since. He's not been back since, and it's been pleasant, very, very pleasant, okay? In fact, this is, because there was nobody taking the minutes, the presiding commissioner was trying to run the meeting and take the minutes at the same time. Neither of the other commissioners volunteered to help him. So he called me the next week and said, would you mind taking the minutes? So then I was taking the minutes for the meeting. I am a secretary of a national organization, so I know how to do all of this, okay? I felt a little uncomfortable, and I was very, very glad that they quickly decided I wasn't going to be doing that job permanently, and now a clerk in the office is doing the job. But, you know, being there was part of why this happened. Just simple little things like, you know what, an agenda has to be posted 24 hours prior to the meeting. You're not doing that. You're violating the Sunshine Law. Are you above the law in this county? And that's what he felt. Other priorities were more important. And so, you know, that's just a little aside. I mean, just having him not being in there has been a great benefit to everybody, because he would literally interrupt even the commissioners to basically take over. So the biggest thing that we did is we elected a new commissioner, presiding commissioner, who is a man of integrity, who basically said, I will not be involved in anything that isn't above this table. And that was conversation with the clerk. So we have a decent commissioner in there now. We have two that, and I'll just be really honest here. There was a real estate deal that took place several years ago. We have Sunshine requested. Is very, very suspect. A building was bought for $95,000 on one morning and then sold to the county for that same morning, 9 o'clock to 11 o'clock, for $149,000. Something's wrong here, and we're going to it's going to come out. We're going to ask for an audit. And so there's so many things that you can do by attending that meeting, so many things. And it has been a lot of fun. You know, I don't know what Cape is like as far as their county commission, but they are very open there, and they have an open meeting, and you can basically speak almost any time you want. They have citizen participation. You're not limited to 3 minutes like they do in many places. And it's been very, very good, very, very helpful to be able to just interchange. We're not against them. We just want them to do what's right. That's all. We just want them to do what's right. So I really, really encourage you to, if you have the availability to attend those meetings, please do it. Please do it. Just be an observer, first of all. I just think this is our responsibility. You know, I want to read something here. It's not the Constitution, but it's from the Declaration. And I read this back in 1992. Sorry about that. I read this back in 1992 when my daughter and I were studying the Declaration of Independence. And it was something that really hit home. It stayed with me since that time. And it says, but when a long train of abuses and usurpations pursuing invariably the same object evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right and it is their duty to throw off such government and provide new guards for the future security. Not only our right, it is our duty. So I hope you take that into consideration, pray about it, and see what you can do to maybe help your county. Jan has allowed me then to speak about something else.
Oh, yeah, forget about that.
Yeah.
But while you're on that, read Article 1, Section 2,
Okay.
because right there is the.
I read this to our commission this morning and basically reminded them that they have sworn an oath to support and defend the Constitution. That all constitutional government is intended to promote the general welfare of the people. Promote general welfare. General welfare is not specific, it is general. And when you take and you select the senior citizens and then basically go into a subgroup of only those receiving Social Security, this is about as special interest as you want to make it. I mean, how many people can you think of that could stand some property tax relief? Real estate tax relief, you know? It's unconstitutional, simply unconstitutional, and that should be our first and foremost challenge to them. And it goes on to say that all persons have a natural right to life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, and the enjoyment of the gains of their own industry. That all persons are created equal and entitled to equal rights and opportunity under the law. That to give security to these things is the principal office of government, and that when government does not confer the security, it fails in its chief design. I think we can all agree there is a tremendous amount of failure happening in our local governments, in our state government, and most certainly at our federal level. But we can't do anything federally until we start taking control of our local governments. That's where we should start. And anyway, I'm sorry, I feel like I'm preaching now. Okay, in the introduction, Jan, I guess, mentioned that my husband and I are members of the Constitution Party. I'm not necessarily here to promote the Constitution Party. I know that's what these meetings are not about. But I know you all had Paul Venable here to speak to you at least one time. Twice, okay. And I want to thank you because it sounded like you all really appreciated who he is as a man and a constitutional scholar, a man of honor and integrity who would, if he had been elected, would have represented the Constitution first and foremost in all things. Well, you know that Paul did not win. It's very difficult to win any type of race at that level. And what we are under, the rules that regulate political parties in Missouri is that if you're a minor party, which we are, you have to gain 2% of the total vote of the last gubernatorial election. Well, this will depend and change according to elections. And you have to do it with a statewide candidate. Paul was our only candidate. We had another candidate who had ran for auditor basically in 2018, and he gained our ballot access for us. He was all scheduled and ready, and we figured he would get us the ballot access again. And right prior to filing, his wife was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. And that was a real blow, and he could not at that time. And so it was dependent on Paul to get that. And here's what always happens. There's always this like, well, we don't vote for this guy, even though we don't like him, we don't trust him, we can't let the other guy get in. And so people are voting out of fear instead of voting their convictions and with courage. So what I'm here to talk about is we need help getting back on the ballot. To gain ballot access again, we will have to get 10,000 valid registered voters' signatures. To do that, we'll have to basically secure about 15 to 16,000 signatures. And so I'm asking tonight if you would be willing to sign the petition that I have with me to basically, this does not register you in any way with the Constitution Party or anything. It just says, yes, we believe that another party should be on the ballot. And so I'm hoping that I can get some signatures from you tonight to get us back on the ballot so that you can have choices that are going to be men and women, and we vet very deeply and very intensely, and we have turned down what would normally be good candidates, maybe for the Republican Party, but they're not constitutional, and they don't take constitutional, and I can't tell you how many times we've had to turn down really good candidates who are not 100% pro-life. We will not run a candidate who is not 100% pro-life. And so we're totally committed to the sanctity of life. And anyway, I just like your help in that. If anybody here would be interested in actually doing and gaining, getting signatures for it, I have some petitions here with me if you'd be interested in doing that. But otherwise, I would really appreciate if you wouldn't mind signing my petition tonight. And that's it.
I do have a question for you. Is this, so Paul, when he was here, he had several petitions. He said over there were several petitions. Would we have signed that already?
No.
Okay, so this is new. So if you signed when Paul was here the other two times,
Yeah.
we need
This
to
is
sign again.
strictly so that we can, it's strictly so that the Constitution Party can be on the ballot again in 2024. It's a huge undertaking. We have had ballot access since 2008, and we managed to maintain it every time, and we lost it this last time. We were on the ballot before that. We've been on, the first time we tried to get on the ballot was 1992 when the party was established. We didn't make it for that, but we made it in 96. We made it in 2000. We lost it in 2004, and we regained it then again in 2008. So I appreciate anything that you would be willing to do to help sign that for me. Anything else, Jim?
I think that's okay. So Cindy, maybe you can set up like right back here and everyone can
Okay,
stop by
I will
and
do
see
that.
you.